How many times have you heard people say training indoors is boring? Maybe you even said it yourself. Well, sadly that is no longer an excuse, because with products like the Tacx Neo 2T Smart Trainer offering so much realism, it's pretty much like bringing the outdoors indoors. No, it is not a giant Star Wars toy. It is in fact the latest and greatest smart trainer from Tacx, the Neo 2T. And with some advanced new features, it promises the most realistic indoor cycling experience ever. Now, I'd be the first to admit that riding indoors is never going to be quite as good or match up to the real thing. But let's face it, with products like this, we've never had it so good. You can forget that boredom fest staring at the garage wall in that fog of burning rubber smell as the rickety old turbo trainer kind of gradually melts your rear tyre. No, with this kind of product we can expect a truly realistic riding feel, and with the help of third-party apps we can have that fully immersive and interactive riding experience indoors. Okay, so how is this new smart trainer able to deliver the realism that Tacx is promising? Well, first and foremost, the trainer itself has got a little bit of flex built into it. So you'll see that when I jump on and do some pedaling in a minute, but it just allows the bike that natural bit of movement. You're never locked solidly in place. So yeah, that's a much more realistic experience. Also, the drive unit is motor driven. So that is going to simulate not just changes in gradient uphill in your virtual world that you're training in, but it will also simulate descent. So your drivetrain will actually be driven on the descent so that you can get that help that you would receive in the real world and recover and so on. And lastly, most impressively I think, is the way this new system is able to actually mimic ground surface. So yeah, if you ride on cobblestones or gravel even, this will give you that sensation through the bike, just like riding on the real thing. So that's what we can expect when we actually jump on and ride. But before that, obviously there's a few setup steps we're going to have to do. And to be honest, that's something I also hear time and again from people as an excuse for not doing their indoor training sessions. They feel like there's a ton of faff involved and time absorbed just getting it all set up before you can even get on and do your session. So that's something which Tacx says it has addressed also in this latest smart trainer. So let's take a look at the setup and we'll go through that. Okay, so this is what you're going to find when you take your Neo 2T out of the box. You've got a riser block, the power lead, which is a really good length actually. That's a nice touch. Although it should be noted at this point that the Neo 2T is one of the few turbo trainers that will actually run under its own power, so you don't actually have to plug it in. But yeah, in terms of getting ready to use it, all you need to do is go from the folded state. As you can see, it's pretty neat in its folded state, handy for tucking it away in a cupboard or at the side of the room out of the way. Fold the sides down and then just lift it up in the middle, and you should be able to click those sides into place. And there you have it. I mean, simple as that to get it ready to use. In terms of getting the bike mounted, Tacx doesn't supply the Neo 2T with a cassette. That's fair enough, I think, because there's so many different types and standards. It would be impossible to cover all bases, but it's compatible straight out of the box with almost every axle standard and every type of bike, disc brakes or not disc brakes. So were I running a Shimano setup or anything 11-speed SRAM, that would be good to go. Just pop the cassette on now, fitting the cassette exactly as you would do onto a bike with the lock ring. But actually I want to use a 12-speed SRAM, as I mentioned, so it gives me an opportunity as well to show you how to change the actual free hub body itself. That doesn't come in the kit, incidentally, so you would need to buy the 12-speed driver body, which is about £55 additional cost. I've got one of those here, so I can show you exactly what that looks like and how that fits on. So that's the 12-speed XDR driver body. This is the standard up to 11-speed driver body. That just pops off. Replace one with another. Locate that into the splines. There you go. And again, just screwing that end cap back on. I mean, the steps actually are really straightforward to convert this to any type of standard. It's compatible with mountain bikes even. Again, it's all there in the packaging for you. So yeah, really straightforward. One of the easiest I've found to work on from all the turbo trainers I've used in terms of just getting it ready to ride. So yeah, it's worth bearing in mind that there are some additional costs in terms of the setup of the Neo 2T. Those are costs you need to factor in on top of the £1,199 that the Neo 2T will cost you in the first instance. So one useful update for the Neo 2T over its predecessor is this now uses the native through axle from the bike. So rather than requiring a specific through axle for the trainer, you can literally unscrew the axle that's in your bike, drop the rear wheel out as normal, pop the bike straight onto the trainer, and again use your own axle straight through and tighten it up as if you would as if you were replacing your rear wheel. It's a good idea to note at this point, if you're using a disc brake bike, probably worth putting a disc brake spacer into your caliper just in case you squeeze the back brake while you're doing a session. That'll stop your pads from coming out and getting stuck together. Okay, so we've got the bike mounted on, and as you can see, there are relatively few steps required to make that happen, and it's really straightforward. The final stage then, before you can get on and get immersed in the fun stuff, is to connect to your third-party software, whichever software you decide to do your training session within. It's compatible with all the key ones. Tacx actually also makes its own software package, but I'm going to use Zwift for this demonstration because I think that really is a good way to show all the interactive and immersive features that the Neo 2T offers. Okay, so when you open the Zwift app, what it's going to do is search for any type of training or power data source close to or within range of the sensors. So I've deliberately unpaired this device so that you can go through the process as if it weren't there. So essentially we're going to search for a power source, and then straight away you can see in the menu that pops up the Tacx trainer is visible to the software, and I can click on that and then click OK, and yeah, there you go, straightforward as that. It's recognised that the Tacx Neo 2T is there. It's also recognised that it will do controllable power. It will also do cadence for you. This is a point at which, if you want to, you can also connect your heart rate monitor. But those steps are super easy, and the connectivity part really is no hassle at all. And then click OK, and we'll be on and riding. So a really useful feature of the Tacx Neo 2T is the fact it requires zero calibration at all. So that goes back to that point about setup and reducing the amount of faff. You can just come in, get your bike on, get cracking with your session. There's no spin downs or zeroing, straight on with your pedaling. And I don't want to be in here for 10 minutes setting up. I want to come in, get on with my session. So that's a really good feature. Another thing that you notice immediately is just that little bit of flex in the unit. I mentioned it earlier, but it's just enough so that the bike's got some of that natural movement and flow as you deliver power through the cranks. The other thing you notice immediately is just how smooth this unit is. This is something that Tacx says it's worked really heavily on for this new version of the Neo. But also, as you'll be able to hear in a minute when I show you with the decibel meter, this is super quiet. Definitely the quietest turbo trainer I've ever used. So there's a crucial update that Tacx says it's really focused on with this new Neo 2T, and that was because one of its predecessors was actually criticised for feeling like it slips quite a bit. If you go from a steady state riding into like a hard interval sprint, yeah, it would feel like you got a bit of slippage before it would pick up and catch up with your pedaling. So yeah, the new magnets, the new orientation of the magnets, all that's been addressed internally with the new hardware, and actually putting that to the test. You know, let's, I can demonstrate it now for you. Shift down a couple of gears, really jump on the gas. Yeah, I mean that was up to nearly 900 watt peak just for a few seconds there, but there's no feeling of any lag. So that's really important to this new model. You can do those on-off intervals and it reacts instantly to your pedaling, which is really nice and exactly what you need. Of course, one of the other really cool features about the Tacx Neo 2T, I can't actually show you in the video because it's more of a sensation than something I can actually see, but that is the way that this unit is now able to mimic road surfaces. So here I am in my virtual world riding along, and if I was to ride onto a section of gravel or cobblestones, I would feel all that sensation. The trainer does a really good job of delivering that sort of real life feel across those different surfaces. Now, yes, it's arguably a bit gimmicky. You don't need that to train effectively, but it's just all about that immersive experience, which I think brings something to these indoor sessions. As we said right back at the beginning, it's about bringing the outdoors experience indoors. So there we have it, the Tacx Neo 2T Smart Trainer. A quick recap of some of its main features. So it's accurate to plus or minus 1%, all the way up to 2,200 watts. As we saw in the video, super easy and quick to set up. And a plus is that it doesn't have to have its own power source, so it will actually run under its own power, so you can use it practically anywhere, which makes it a very versatile smart trainer. It's also really quiet once you're on and riding, as we saw in the video again, like super quiet, one of the quietest turbo trainers I've ever ridden in fact. And then once you're riding, it's all about the realistic ride feel that it delivers. Its ability to mimic those descents and the climbs, and also the road surface changes within that virtual training world that you're in on your whatever third-party app you're training in, gravel, cobblestones, even going over cattle grids. It delivers that realistic sensation through the bike, and that's really quite cool. I mean, call it gimmicky or just embrace it and accept that, you know, that just makes it a more complete indoor training experience. We're so far past the days of staring blankly at the garage wall in a dingy shed or whatever. You know, this is about, you know, really enjoying and immersing yourself in that experience. And you might even start to think your indoor sessions are, whisper it, fun. You want to read a full review of the Neo 2T, head over to cyclist.co.uk. And if you've enjoyed this video, please do give us a like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you click the bell icon too, you'll be notified every time we upload new and exciting content. Thanks for watching.